Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Untapped Podcast. My name is Jacob Gabel.
And my name is Jacob Wurtz, guys. Welcome to episode 138 of the Untapped Podcast. If this is your first time joining us, first of all, thank you. We are thrilled to have you here with us. We actually have 5 main formats of our show. First, we have Forging Fortitude episodes. Now, in these episodes, we cover the mental side of our brand. We go over our anecdotal experiences with things like mindset and mentality. We then pass on tips and advice to you guys to then apply to your own lives. Next, we have Physical Vitality episodes. Now, in these episodes, we really get to showcase our expertise because you have 2 certified personal trainers here. So in these episodes, we cover everything to do with the gym, nutrition, workouts, workout and fitness programs like 75 Hard, Untapped Training. If you guys have any questions or curiosities about Untapped Training, please reach out. We are more than willing to help you in any way we possibly can. We also cover supplements, and then sometimes we will take trending articles or topics within the fitness industry and give our thoughts and opinions on those. Those Physical Vitality episodes, guys, are full of free game. So make sure you pay attention, take notes, re-listen, things like that. Full of free game. Pay attention.
Let's go, dude. Let's freaking go. Okay, on to our third format. That is our current event-based format, which is called our breaking news format. We go over current events, current articles, and things going on in the world. Now, keep in mind, we could do about 3 to 4 episodes of these a week. Are you making me out over here
Yes,
in the middle of my monologue? Are you kidding me?
Keep going.
Sorry,
You're good.
cat monologue. But guys, on those episodes, we go over anything to do with current events, current articles in the world as of today is what we're going to be doing, talking about going to vote, for example. Now, keep in mind, we could do 1 million of these episodes a week just because the United States especially has a lot of stuff going on, whether it's behind the scenes or whether it's in the media, etc., so that we could talk about. But that's not our entire personality here as the show. As Wurtz said, our main focus is health and fitness and how that relates to the other formats. Now, on to our 4th format. That is our Knights Table format. It is a masculinity-based format. Now, we talk about toxic masculinity, if it's real, what it actually is, fatherhood, the impact it's had on our lives, male topics in general, and how important men are to the world. We really enjoy those formats. Now, keep in mind, I'm 26, Wurtz is 26, Mitchell, our producer, is 24. Because of that reason, we are not coming to you from the top of the mountain. You know, we're not an all put together perfect man. The only perfect man to ever walk the earth is Jesus Christ. Now, on to our 5th format. That is our guest format. That is when we sit down with an entrepreneur, fitness professional, athlete, doctor, somebody with a great story, basically anybody who's going to bring you guys, the listeners, value. We're going to learn a lot from those episodes. You're also going to learn a lot from those episodes. Our final thing to introduce is our producer and my brother, Mitchell Gabel.
What's up? What's going on?
Mitch, do you know if he got the job?
What job?
Well, he's dressed for a job interview here.
Hey, you had a collared shirt on. I wanted to pull one on too.
Jeans are too casual, honestly. He wouldn't get it.
It's kind of, well,
Depending on the job.
yeah, I would say our first job, Mitchell, we could have walked in shorts and gotten the job.
Yeah, but we're not in high school anymore there, bud.
There, bud. Dude's trying to bring back out the 3 years of Minnesota over there.
Yeah. Minnesota.
Minnesota.
All right, guys.
Wow. Right into
Tomorrow is a big day
Yes, it is.
when you guys are hearing this.
Yeah. Some of you may have done early versions of what we're about to talk about as well.
Yeah.
Possibly.
What are we talking
Like our
about?
lovely producer.
Should we break the
Should we
ice?
break the news? Oh my
know.
gosh. It's
Crazy.
not like our title said it or anything like that.
Tomorrow is election day. And we did a YouTube exclusive on just kind of voting in general and some more general points about the whole situation. What was that? 2 weeks ago?
Yep.
And yeah, like you just mentioned, obviously a ton of people have already participated in early voting. Mitch, you were one of them. Hopefully you voted for the right ones.
No, remember, he's our resident Democrat. Oh. Yep.
I actually specifically registered in all 50 states so I could vote 50 times.
Nice.
I thought maybe you were going for the Green Party.
Jill?
Jill Stein?
Was that Jill?
Yeah,
Jill,
she's a good friend of mine.
Yeah. Truthfully, I didn't even know she was running again until I saw her name on the ballot.
It was weird.
I forgot she was even a thing, to be honest
Some
with you.
states had like 9 presidential candidates.
I think we have 4.
Yeah, in St. Louis County it was
Four
4.
in
We
St.
had
Louis County, yeah.
I mean, I'm just writing in JT, but
I mean,
I don't know if he's going to get the votes though. to
yeah,
win.
we got to figure out a way to vote for
he
him.
does meet the age requirement.
Well, of course. I mean,
Well, we know that.
significantly. I mean, I don't even know how many times older he is.
Yeah, we
than
keep
that.
talking about not putting old people in office.
What is it?
And then
It's
we're going to put JT
it's
in.
35 to be president.
35. Yeah.
I mean, he's what, 104? I mean,
Yeah.
he's-
Give or-
It's something
give or
like that.
take.
Yeah.
Give or
It's
take,
like,
yeah.
3 times it almost. It's crazy.
Really has kept his health together really well, though. So, you know, I mean, that might have been the craziest dig you had yet at JT. Wow. He doesn't care about the age thing. The health thing, though, might cross the line.
Oh man.
You were breathing to load that up.
Well,
like,
I was gonna say something and then it went away.
and
but
then it just disappeared. Yeah.
all right, we got to reel it in. This
We
is a
do- we
shit
do.
show so far.
We do. Yep,
But
that's true.
big day tomorrow.
Yes.
Big week because I'm sure we're not going to get results on election day, which makes absolutely 0 sense. I mean, literally it makes 0 sense when other countries that are significantly poorer and in worse situations than the United States, they can get it done in a day,
Exactly.
as it should.
Yeah. And some people will counter that argument and say, well, the United States has 350 million people, though. And it's like, okay, that also means we have more volunteers and more poll workers
Yeah.
to take care of it
Yeah.
than these other countries.
How about the federal government pays the poll workers better?
Well,
Makes it
and
more attractive to do that for a day.
what's interesting, too, is this relates to efficiency in the United States. Well, actually, that's very true about the poll workers. I wanted to say that real
Yeah.
quick about paying them. But imagine the efficiency we used to have in the United States, too.
Yeah.
I mean, think about construction projects. They took 3 months to get done a lot of the times.
Sure.
You know, in some
Depending
scenarios,
on
depending
what
on
it
the
is.
project
Yeah.
was, of course. But now we can't even figure out election voting, which, again, these last 2 elections are the only, well, we don't know if it's going to happen, of course, this one. It's
Well,
likely.
I feel like it's pretty obvious it's going to happen. When there's already been stuff with the early voting. There's already been
questions
problems in
and ballot
Georgia
boxes
and
on fire
Texas,
and
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
You know, like the electronic ones, you press Trump, but then when it prints out, it has Harris selected. And it's just like, are we kidding?
Dominion voting issues, yeah.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
systems, yeah.
Exactly.
It's very interesting because I don't remember 2016 when we first voted. I don't remember this being an issue.
I don't
It was,
either.
it was that night, right?
Yeah,
with Trump?
as far as I know. Well, no, I know it was that night. It was late.
Yeah.
You know, because we were seniors,
Mhm.
I guess.
Yep. Yeah, we were.
Oh yeah, would have been freshly 18, basically.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, I remember staying up, and it was an exciting night because we won. You know, the guy that we wanted to get in got in.
Yep.
And so it was an exciting time and an exciting night because it also happened that night.
Mhm.
You know, last election, I stayed up damn near pulled an all-nighter just because it was such a high-stakes situation and nobody was doing anything because it was still COVID, so we weren't doing anything.
Exactly.
You know,
there's
and-
lots of questions around it, et cetera. Still.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And I was awake when they found those votes in Michigan.
Mhm.
I mean, it's like, what? How is this type of stuff happening?
Correct.
You know what I mean? It's because in the one big election I have voted in previously, the one we just mentioned, 2016, nothing like that happened.
Mhm.
You know, I just
Well, and it's a fair question to ask because I would hope that we would turn around and ask the exact same questions if same thing was happening with the our side of things.
Absolutely.
You know, and again, you and I are kings of calling out our own side
For sure.
for that matter. But, you know, so I just, the thing is about election integrity and the importance of one, because we're going to get to the importance of voting for sure and getting out there and whatnot. But the thing about election integrity, it's a very simple thing to put into rule of law. You know, it's the same thing as we talk about all the amendments on the ballots and whatnot. And somehow, you know, the weed legalization one 2 years ago ended up being 34 pages long.
Right.
When it could be as simple as a 2-page document saying, okay, this is where the money's going to go from the taxes. Weed's now legal. Same with the gambling one now in Missouri is up for us.
Sure. Both
You
of
know?
them, actually, because the casino down at Lake of the Ozarks is
Correct.
another one.
Yep. And so to me, I'm like, it could be so easy to just enshrine, okay, Election Day is a federal holiday, which I think should
Yes.
100% be a thing.
Yes.
For no matter the job, doesn't matter.
Correct.
I mean, obviously, if you're a law enforcement officer, it's a little bit harder to do.
Sure.
But not the point. Every job that's possible gets a federal holiday that
Yeah.
day.
No, I agree.
And then you go and you vote, get it done, and then there's poll workers, whether they're paid or not, whether there's incentives to be poll workers, I don't care.
Yeah.
Participate in the election that way, however it is.
I mean, hell, dude, if there was a significant like hourly wage for a poll worker, like 100%, I would do it. Like, seriously, it's easy money.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
and it's
absolutely.
a service to your country too.
It absolutely is.
You know?
Especially if it was a federal holiday too. It's like you and I
Oh,
would
yeah.
be there doing
Yeah.
that 100%.
Right.
We
Right.
weren't working
Right.
the day of.
Right.
But, I don't think it's a hard ask, because to have federal holiday, results are in that day, people are involved in the election.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. The results
that's
are
it.
that day.
That day.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
I mean, because that works out evenly for both Republicans and Democrats
Right.
in that scenario, or libertarians or
Right.
Green Party, funny enough.
Polls
you know?
close at the same time
Exactly.
across the country. You know, it obviously
Depending on
with the time
Pacific
zones.
time, of course. Yeah.
But it's
yeah.
like, 7 p.m., whether you're Eastern, 7 Eastern, 7 Central, 7 Pacific, whatever. Like 7 o'clock, wherever you are in the country, polls are closed. Doesn't matter if you're right outside the door. Like, polls are closed.
Yep.
We start counting now.
Yep. Yeah, and maybe we enhance the number of polling locations.
Yeah.
So there's not the hour and a half
Sure.
long wait or whatever.
Sure.
That too. You know
Sure.
what I mean? So people don't have to stand in line the whole time.
Right.
Whatever. There's a lot of efficiency things that could be done with election integrity.
Right.
Because we could go over all the January 6th and all the questions and stuff around that, but that's not the point. Or like the 2020 questions. But that's in the past. We can't spend time on that right now. We got to go to that 2024 election coming up now. And it's just a simple ask, because again, like, no illegal citizens voting either. That's another one. That's a pretty obvious one to
Just
enshrine.
non-citizens.
And again, just say, nobody that is an illegal citizen, or just deport all illegal ones.
Correct.
That'd be easier. But you have to be a citizen. You have to show your ID to vote. Cool. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, black people can get IDs too. Every other
Yes.
race can get
Yes.
IDs. Doesn't matter if you're white, Asian, whatever it is. Doesn't matter if you're black. Doesn't matter if you're Hispanic. You can get an ID.
Yeah, absolutely.
And anybody you see on the street, when they ask, "Do you have an ID?" the black people are like, "Yes, obviously, we
Right.
have an ID."
right.
It's like, yeah, no, because you literally have to show your ID to get on an airplane
Yeah.
or do a million other things
To get into a
for
bar.
that many. So it's not a hard ask on that.
Right.
So I wanted to set the stage with the election integrity
Mm-hmm.
stuff too, because we have questions about that, but that doesn't mean you don't show up.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you do show up and there is election issues, there's more proof
Yes.
of the election issues.
Yes.
Because we have more numbers showing up. Because
Exactly.
whether it's Democrat or Republican,
Mm-hmm.
which we have opinions about which side it was against in 2020, of course,
Sure.
as is obvious.
And a lot of it's not even opinionated.
That's
A lot of it
that's
has
the
been
thing.
come out as
Yeah.
fact.
Yeah. And I don't know. I definitely, for those of you listening right now, I will say, since this is coming out on Monday, the day before the 5th, send anybody that that has not voted, send it to them. Send this episode to them
Yeah.
so they can get a listen in, so they can
Right.
be like, okay, maybe this is their last straw. That's like, okay, I'm going to go vote tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe it's the day of and it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And they're like, okay, I guess I should go vote after work.
Yeah.
Okay. And then maybe that's the line for
Right.
them. Cool. We're good to go.
Right.
So
Because it matters.
it 100% does.
It
showing up.
matters.
Yeah.
Is an election going to come down to one single vote? Very likely not. But it still matters because of what you just said. The more total number, or the higher the total number of votes is, the more proof you have that things are or are not going as they should be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the most important part, is a fair election, that we get results when we need results,
Mm-hmm.
when it was written in that we get them. And for some reason, that's like a huge debate.
Yep.
The ID thing is a huge debate. Why is that a debate? What are we talking about here?
I have no idea. It's very easy to get an ID.
Yes,
It doesn't take any brain power. You could be 75 IQ or you could be 160 IQ. You're still able to get an ID. One way or
Right,
another.
right.
Doesn't matter.
You could be 18 years old. You could be 95 years old,
Exactly.
or anything in between. You can get an ID. It's not difficult.
Mhm.
And I don't even think it costs that much.
No,
I think to renew mine, I think it was like $27.
if that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like,
Money anybody has.
right.
And granted, if somebody doesn't have $27 to fork up, they probably shouldn't be somebody who's participating in an election anyways.
It's fair. It's fair.
Sadly enough.
Yeah.
I mean, there is truth to, like, because Andy always brings up the idea, which is a really interesting one, of only people who pay taxes voting. And I always think that's intriguing, because the fact that when you're paying taxes, you have more of a stake in the country.
Yeah.
You have more reason to care about the country and care about the election and what's
Sure.
going on. So, and you're also providing for the country. So that's a big thing too.
And other countries.
You know, and some people will say like that would, yeah, wow, that's rough. Such an honest truth, but it's hard to hear.
Yeah.
But I mean, whenever you are paying taxes, there is like, okay, we remember when we got our first check when we were 15, 16 years old.
Oh yeah.
The first time.
We were rich.
And, yeah, we were rich, but then we realized how much taxes took away.
Yeah.
And we were like,
this sucks.
that doesn't make a lot of sense. You know,
Like I'm 16. Why did so
I
much
get
of that?
25, 30% taken out of my check? What in the world?
It's like what?
Did I move to Denmark last time I checked?
Yeah.
What in the world?
I wanted to go back to something we talked about earlier, and to bring Mitch into this. You know, we were talking about how with the early voting, there's already been some issues with Dominion and just other software issues or whatever. Like, Mitch, what have you seen? What are you seeing in relation to that type of stuff already, you know, online and on the dark web that you run and all that?
In terms of messing with the election?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nothing. I mean, you've seen the real public ones, you know, the ballot box set on fire and other stuff like that. But I've seen actually a real life example of someone close where they used to live in California. They live in Texas now. And they didn't even register to vote in California. And ballots were sent to their P.O. box that remains in California. Yeah. So
they do not live there.
no, they live in Texas.
They live in Texas. But they had ballots in California mailed to them.
Yeah, they have a
In
PO.
Texas?
No, they have a PO box still in California.
Gotcha. Okay.
But they didn't register to vote in California or anything, but ballots were still sent. So
I mean, in California, it's essentially a guarantee that you have illegals voting in the election.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And dead people.
You know, the interesting thing, there was a rabbit hole in dead people, yes, that too. But there was a rabbit hole somebody went down where they actually went over how after Reagan, California was completely blue after that, has been blue since. So Reagan obviously is from California and was the governor, if I remember correctly, before?
I don't know.
Or was he just an actor? I believe either way, it doesn't matter. That's not important to the story. But Reagan was in office, obviously 2 terms. And then after he was out, California was red during that time. Because, I mean, his second term, I think he swept
I think he only did not win one state.
it was like 1 or 2.
it was Minnesota. He won every single state. The entire country was red except for Minnesota.
Yeah. Interesting.
Good state. Adds up that Timmy is from there.
Tampon Tim.
Yeah. Such a good name. But it's interesting because after that, you can see like California was like, it was actually, it would teeter before Reagan. It would teeter back and forth between red and blue a lot of the times. And it was more like a swing state supposedly. And then for some reason after the Reagan election, there was something, whether he allowed it to happen or whatnot, that there was a certain influx across the border, allowed citizens, and it was illegals actually. And then ever since then, it's swung heavily blue that way, which is very interesting because you hear about like Northern California and how Northern California ends up being a lot more red.
Sure.
And it seems to be
A lot of money there too.
that too. There's a lot more money there. And also, you know, if you think about it, Southern California is right next to the border.
Oh, sure.
So naturally that influx is right there. I mean, if those cities in Southern California region are covering the election, then
Oh yeah.
I mean they're gonna double what Northern California has
Yeah.
for Trump and whatnot, or for the Republican Party or whatever
Right.
it is. You know, so it's very interesting. And again, the only reason we're saying this is because the Democrat Party is the only one that pushes for less secure border, more illegal rights, or whatever that means in our country, or handing them, you know, checks in New York and whatnot to go live in a hotel and all this other stuff. They're the only party that encourages that.
Right.
And again, the Republican Party has many flaws,
Yes.
but the Democrat
Like
one,
the unwavering support for Israel.
yeah, that blows my mind. Yeah, and that's actually another thing I want to touch on with going to vote too, is the actually forgotten about part is really those amendments, those propositions, and then the local state Senate and state
sure.
legislature.
Yeah.
So that's forgotten about a lot too, where, you know, everybody thinks of the federal election as, you know, oh my gosh, we're voting for Trump and Kamala this time, or Trump and Biden 2020. This is the big one. And it's like, you forget that states' rights are still very much a thing.
Oh yeah.
And as much as it's dwindling more and more and the federal government continues to get bigger, states' rights are still a real thing and they still really affect you. 100% who's in the presidential office will affect you, 1,000%. But you cannot forget about the others on the list. You know, and we've talked about this before. We have Ann Wagner on for the 6th time or whatever it is, or 10th time, or who knows what.
The fact that someone like her continues to get on Missouri's ballot because she's a representative, I think, right?
Correct.
But a federal one.
She's a federal level representative.
But that also shows the ignorance of not only the Republican Party, but more so the people that vote for the Republican Party. The ignorance is like, oh, well, it's a familiar name. I'll just, I'll keep voting for her, in the primaries and things like that. And it's like, you idiots. She is not here and not doing the things that you want her to be doing.
Correct.
For our state, for the country. Quit voting for her.
Yep.
Like
she's been in there 20 years. I mean, it's time to get her out.
Absolutely.
Like, if we don't see any results at that point in time and things have continued to go the opposite way, you're out. You're gone.
Right.
Which again is why that's another thing too, is like if more of the citizens from both Democrat and Republican side of things push for term limits on both sides, that could be something we could all get behind.
Absolutely.
And then if we go at the actual politicians about that and say, hey, you need to start talking about this and putting this into law.
Yeah.
They're going to. Because they listen to constituents because they have to. They know if they piss off the people, and again, they've been slowly chipping away as we've talked about over the last 50 to 70 years or so. But if they piss off the people big time by saying no to something that all of us, like term limits, should agree on, then they're going to pass this because of the fact they're too scared to not pass it, so to speak.
Exactly.
And that could totally be a bipartisan bill.
It should be. It should be.
100%.
Yeah.
So, and again, that doesn't mean that, we're saying that there aren't every once in a while an effective senator or congressman or congresswoman or something like that is in there for 10 plus years or something like that. There probably has been, but
probably though.
I say probably because I don't have any examples.
Exactly.
at all. So that's my thing is like, career-long politicians should not be a thing. That should be something we should all be able to get behind.
Correct.
Which is, again, why a lot of people liked Trump back in 2016 and why they like him now. He's still not a career politician now.
Right.
It's just that back in 2016, he didn't realize how deep the shit went. And then he had a lot of people around him that were the wrong people that were part of that swamp that he talked about.
Right.
And so now it really seems like he's bringing in a lot of political outsiders to his campaign. Like RFK is considered a political outsider.
Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard is considered a political outsider.
It's not like Vance was a big name.
Vance, yeah. 100%
I didn't know who he was.
Wasn't a big name at all, yeah. I just knew I knew he was from Ohio and I had heard his name before, but that's it.
Yeah.
Outside of that, nothing. Vivek's another one. Outsider, yep.
Elon.
Yep, Elon's another
outsider.
One. Yep.
And it's like, does Elon know how to be a part of the federal government? No, he definitely doesn't, but he's pretty good at, creating successful things. So why wouldn't we want him to possibly contribute in some capacity?
What was it? The Department of Government Efficiency? Him and Ron Paul might be going for?
Yeah, something like that. And I'm not saying Elon Musk should be the vice president, because you and I, especially in the beginning of Elon starting to kind of like speak out and all this, it's like, is he for real? Or like, what's he doing here? Because why is he low-key supporting the Republican side of things, or at least the logical side of things, whether that's Republican or not, but more just calling out stuff, saying logically based things? It's like, why is he doing that? Because he owns an electric car business that the Democrats are pushing for electric vehicles, so their plan would benefit him greatly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But now he's speaking out against them and calling them out and just calling out the BS in general. It's like, why is he doing that? But then the more and more that it continues to go on, it's like he understands that actually this Green New Deal and all the green stuff would hurt his business long term. Yeah,
especially SpaceX.
Yeah. Oh,
for that matter. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, they were talking about the amount of permits it takes to get one of those rockets off the ground.
Oh,
and it's from the EPA and whatnot. It's ridiculous.
I'm sure it's unbelievable.
It's it's a mess. And then what was he recently you see how he had that rocket return
Oh yeah, I like caught it, dude. That was
That
awesome.
was disgusting.
That was so cool.
It's unreal.
It's like that is talk about efficiency.
Yep.
Right there.
And American innovation.
Yes.
What we think about, like how we think back to the Cold War and how we basically just priced out the Soviets because we just big dogged them because we spent more money than they did.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean that's American ingenuity and innovation at its finest.
Yes.
That's what we miss. You know, because I mean, the 80s was kind of a last gasp at what America really was, I think, in a lot of ways. You know, like that was like probably the last time we saw what America really was at the end of the Cold War and whatnot, which is crazy to think about. But dude, the thing is, if we're talking about government efficiency with Elon, if we're talking about the health aspect with RFK, of course you and I are going to lean toward that.
For sure.
Health and fitness is our thing.
It's what we do.
So we hear that, and we also hear government efficiency. So those two things alone could sell us on the Trump side of things.
Yeah.
You know, so let's go on. Like, I want to hear rationalize your position and why like Kamala doesn't appeal to you and Trump does.
Right.
Like, talk about that.
Are you?
Yeah,
okay.
you.
Okay. I thought you were.
You're like who?
Yeah. Is there a guy over there? It's exactly that though. You know, and we have said plenty of negative things towards Trump. Okay. However, we were better off throughout his 4 years than the current 4 years financially is the number one thing. Gas prices, grocery prices, food, everything for that matter. You know, I was almost going to have to buy a single tire today. It was going to be almost $300 for a single tire.
Yeah, and that's on the low end for a tire nowadays too. Yeah.
And as funny as like he's like, a tire, really?
It's like what are you talking about?
That's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
You know, but I remember when I was younger and I would have to go get, 4 new tires or something. The total would be like $500 or $600. You know, so it's leaked into everything. Okay. I am in and out of grocery stores now all the time with my new job. I see the prices of everything now. You know, it's not just you go to the grocery store and you get what you need, so that's all you're looking at price-wise. I see the prices all the time, every day. And it's like, man, that didn't used to be $10 for whatever that is, or $25 or whatever. You know, so that is obviously a huge part, the financial aspect, right? And especially as you and I are getting more and more into our entrepreneurial journey,
100%.
where that matters greatly, whether it's how much money we're able to put into the business, how much money we can make from the business and things like that. Like, that's a huge aspect of it.
Absolutely.
As far as RFK, you already mentioned it, but I was talking to my neighbor the other night. We have a Halloween block party we always do. And one of my neighbors, who you know, he works with basically massive weight loss clients is essentially what he does on the nutrition side of things. He's not a trainer or anything like that. He is a dietitian, I believe, is like one of his official titles.
It sounds like he's a specialized dietitian. From
Very
what you've
much
told
so.
Me. Yeah.
Very much so, with heavily obese people. Okay.
Pretty cool job.
And so I asked him, I'm like, hey, like, what do you think about RFK being involved in this? And he goes, I think it is unbelievable. And he was like, I am so excited about that. As soon as he said what he wanted to do, as soon as he sided with Trump and was speaking out against, our food that we currently eat and all this other stuff. And he goes, I'm unbelievably excited. And so I love that. I love seeing a family, a lifelong Democrat family, choosing to side with the Republicans right now, and specifically with Trump. Okay. Trump's also just like, he's got that badass to him.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And is he an idiot at times? For sure. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
But before he ran for president the first time, everyone loved Donald Trump. People watched The Apprentice. People knew he was a baller. Okay. Yeah. Did he do some stuff in the past that you shouldn't? For sure.
Mainly with like promiscuity with the women. And
absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
And who hasn't made mistakes in their past, though?
I was going to say, yeah.
Who doesn't have some skeletons in the closet?
I'm not about to sit here and judge.
Exactly.
I've made mistakes like that in the past.
Exactly.
So it's like, yeah.
And so, yes, there are bad things to his past. There's bad things to Kamala's past. Okay? So that doesn't have to be a deciding thing, but like, he's a baller. He's built iconic brands. He's made a ton of money. Well, he was gifted $1 million from his dad. Yeah, he turned it into billions. Could I hand you $10 and you turn it into 100?
Wurtz, he went bankrupt though.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah. He's filed for bankruptcy 7 times or
the
whatever it is.
Absolute I know you have no understanding of business or real estate if you say that sentence to me.
Correct.
Like you have no, like, other than, you know how like Andrew Tate calls people like our regular jobs, they call us a wagey
Oh,
and
yeah.
whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that is the most wagey statement you could make. That
Correct.
shows you have no understanding of a higher level business at all.
Correct.
None.
It's like, because people, when they bring that up, they're like, well, he's filed for bankruptcy 7 times, so how successful could he be? Okay. He still has like a 93.7% success rate with his businesses.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that is the exact number as well.
That would be like if you looked at a company's amount of times they've been sued for something.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like this employee sued because they were mean to him. It's like he doesn't know how to run a business. It's like, what?
Right.
Yeah. It's a tactic.
Right.
The bankruptcy thing is a tactic that
Yes.
they use at that level, and it's honestly a really smart tactic because it's a legal loophole
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So like all these are also on the books legal loopholes that
Correct.
they use.
Correct.
We don't even understand it fully,
Absolutely.
and that's why I don't sit here and pretend to make fun of him
Yeah.
going bankrupt.
And that's why people are able to become more wealthy too, because they give less of their money to the government.
Exactly.
It's not a bad thing.
Mm.
And then broader stroke too, like the way the Democrat Party has gone is just so unappealing.
Mhm.
The stuff with the transgender, the stuff with kids, the stuff with other countries, the stuff with immigration.
Mm-hmm.
Like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I can't stand for literally any of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the abortion thing, and we don't have to go down like an abortion conversation, but the fact that that is such a prominent point for Democrats,
Especially women.
the ability to end life just because. And I understand there's times where the mother's health is in jeopardy.
We're talking percentages though.
Exactly.
It's at the
Exactly.
lowest percentages are 95% plus are just because.
Exactly. And it's like the fact that that is this giant hill that these people choose to die on. And you said it too, specifically women and
Mhm.
specifically left-leaning women.
Yeah.
Like-
The brunch alcoholic liberal women
Yeah.
and whatnot. Yeah.
It's just like the fact that that is such a huge hill for them to stand on blows my mind because it borderlines on evil.
Mhm.
Very, very closely borderlines on evil.
I mean, it's well played. I will say that though.
Oh, it's a very emotional
there you go.
topic.
It's a very emotionally appealing topic.
Correct.
And it's been made to be that way.
for sure.
You know, because it totally could be made not that way.
Right. And that's how they get them. That's how they get everyone, for that matter, right, left, man, woman, it doesn't matter. That's how they get everyone to ignore all the other issues that matter
Mhm.
way more that aren't emotional. The financial ones, the immigration ones, the kids. Like, how are we breezing over all the issues with kids and in schools right now?
Mhm.
Or like this abortion bill that's here in Missouri, Amendment 3. Okay. It's not just for or against abortion. It's for parental rights as well. You know, if it goes through, schools don't have to tell parents what's going on with their kid.
Yeah, your kid comes out as trans, then
Exactly. The kid or the school doesn't have to say anything.
that is now the state's kid,
Exactly.
which is full blown communist.
It's like, what are we talking about?
That is full blown.
Yes.
Full blown Soviet Mao communism.
Absolutely. And then actually, you just mentioned that. You sent me a video on Twitter yesterday. I believe I saw it this morning. Okay. Of the like 2.5-minute ad that was put out, and it was an AI created ad or whatever.
Yeah, it wasn't by Kamala's team, I don't believe. I believe it
yeah, I
was some
don't think
other
so.
Democrat run thing.
Yeah. But the synopsis of this 2.5-minute video was that Trump won the election, okay, and then he installs himself as a dictator, or actually no, someone gave him
Gave JD.
well, no, there was that.
Trump died, and then
yeah.
then JD goes like 30 years, turns into a dictator somehow.
Yeah. So anyway,
Which JD
it
is
was-
not even that conservative.
not at all. But yes, they show Trump like in a hospital bed, dying from old age or whatever it was that they said in the video. And then he dies. So Vance becomes the president. He installs himself as a dictator. He's in office for 30 years. And it's showing like these like sad, pictures and videos of citizens sitting around a little fire and they're all huddled up and they're cold, like the Hunger Games, basically.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I envisioned it. Okay. I go through the comments and they're like, so they're going to make an ad like this, that he's been president or whatever for 30 years, but we're not going to talk about how there's been people in the Senate and the House of Representatives for 20 plus, like what we were talking about earlier with term
AKA
limits.
Biden's at 40 plus.
All of them.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, there's tons of them, Republicans and Democrats, that have been in there for years, 20, 30, 40 plus years. And we're okay with that? How?
And Trump was in for one term.
Exactly.
4 years.
Yes.
And somehow he's the dictator that stayed in power for 20 plus years.
And it's like what they don't get, what the people on the left do not get, all of these things that they accuse the right and Republicans and Trump, all the things they accuse of him being a dictator and a socialist. I'm like, first of all, Trump, a socialist? Like, are we serious? I mean, really?
Like the National Socialists, yeah.
But it's you accuse them of what you're doing to cause confusion. You accuse them of what you are doing to cause confusion. And it's like the whole video, that's what they're headed for. That's what the left is headed for.
It's basically from George Orwell's book 1984.
100%.
I mean, it's just propaganda from it.
We live in that now.
Oh yeah.
We literally do.
Yeah, we're very, very quickly getting to the same point that book was at.
There's cameras everywhere. I'm not just talking like phone cameras. I'm talking on streets,
webcams,
our phones, our watches, all of our smart watches. They've all got microphones. Your Alexa, your Google Home thing, it's all
Big
listening.
Brother is listening.
It's all listening.
Same concept as 1984.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is too is when it comes to like the appealing aspect of Trump versus Kamala, one thing I think you and I hadn't even said on anything yet, we've said it to each other, but we haven't even said this on any platform, I don't believe, is as young men, how does Kamala appeal to us?
None of her does.
And I mean high agency young men who are entrepreneurs, young men who are still athletes and very physically fit, young men who want to lead their relationship. How does anything Kamala says apply to us? Any of it?
None of it.
Like genuinely.
Yeah.
Genuinely, there's ads out where they're basically saying like it was literally like 4 gay actors that were portraying, I'm a man, I'm voting for Kamala and whatnot. That one. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like
there was a
white
country
dudes
guy.
for Harris. There was that trend and whatnot.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't understand all the men you put in these things, white dudes for Harris, these ads that say men are voting for Harris and we're not scared of women and whatnot. All of these men are low testosterone as hell.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, these are literally emasculated men. You're showing people like us three.
Right.
And we're supposed to connect with them.
Right.
You're showing us Tim Walz, who very well might have someone on his hard drive. Very likely will have someone on his hard drive. It's just a weird dude. And you expect us to connect with him.
Exactly.
It's just not going to happen.
Because you're trying to sway us to vote for that. And it's like, you're not doing it right. Like, you try again, I guess.
Yeah, seriously. Like, if I don't even know, is there anybody on the left that would even, I can't even think of a candidate they could put up that would be unbelievably like masculine to show us. Like, because it was very interesting because, Cubans accusing Trump of not having any strong women around him and whatnot. And then you got Cardi B endorsing Kamala. The lady who literally sang WAP.
Yeah, exactly.
That doesn't exactly sound like a strong woman. It just sounds like a whore. I mean, not a selling factor.
No.
At all.
No, not at all.
That's why there's this big divide between young men and young women, because naturally men have become less of leaders in this world, which I think this coming generation of young men, including us, are going to be flipping that script.
I think so.
Because of the fact that there's trends that we're showing more conservative.
Yeah. And I mean, you and I, we can speak to that very, very much so, because just a few weeks ago we were at the gym and these two younger guys walk right in front of us and they looked, I don't even know. Like they
looked young.
Well, they looked young.
Very young.
Yes. Yeah. But they had tattoos kind of in weird spots and like of weird things. And we were very judgmental before we ever even talked to these guys.
Full transparency. Yeah.
We were very judgmental. We both kind of looked at each other like, you see that? And we kind of like chuckled a little bit. It was like, man, weak sauce, And then we actually met them and we introduced ourselves, they introduced themselves, and we actually had a really good conversation. We found out like there's a lot of very common interests. And when we talked about, we've had a podcast for almost 3 years. We've been training for X amount of time and all this. And, we were talking about content and stuff like that. And it's just like, immediately we could see those guys looking up to us. They were even asking our advice on different things.
And then not to mention their content's talking about winning and all
Exactly.
this stuff as well as we go on
And they
social
talk about
media.
the Bible
Yeah.
and this stuff. And it's like, okay, well, number one, we were so in the wrong.
We were assholes
for how it,
for no
yes,
good reason. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We were so in the wrong for how we made an immediate judgment without ever talking to them. They didn't give us a look or say anything goofy to us. Like there was nothing. They walked right in front of us. That was all. Okay. And because afterwards we talked about, it's like, man, we were wrong for that.
Well, we got to check that for sure.
Absolutely. Because who are we to do something like that? Nobody,
Yeah,
But
100%.
But to the point here of younger generation starting to flip that script, like those guys they're going to turn out to be good dudes. I found out the one because I saw him the other day again at the gym. He's 18. And he's already going down this path. And it's like, man, I love that. Like that's so awesome. And now they're always interacting with our content. We're interacting with theirs. Like, awesome. Like, keep doing it. The one kid, like, he's getting up at 4:30 every morning to do push-ups. He just got his certification to train people. And it's just like, you're doing the right things here.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think you're right that there is an element of the younger generation flipping that script. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it starts with our generation, the three of us right here, guys like us, guys like JT, guys like Connor, guys like Will even. Even though Will might be a little bit older than us, no jokes there, just like he is a little bit older than us, but he still is a leadership figure to us and then to the generation below us as well. People like Lexi Johnson, Lexi J Wellness. That's another one. And Jeff and Brock, we were supposed to have a good guest tonight, a great guest tonight. Unfortunately, we have to reschedule. No big deal. But like that person, a tremendous influential person, tremendously influential person.
There you go. Yeah, nailed it. Yeah.
And so we also have made the choices to surround ourselves with people like that. We've made the decisions to put good people around us. Even the guys that we hang out with all the time, Jake and Trent and all them who we've talked about, they're able to influence us. We're able to influence them, and sometimes we all have different ideas on certain things. And when it's us guys talking, we're able to have really good conversations actually about all the, whether it's political stuff or social stuff or just stuff in general for that matter. We're able to have really good conversations and also come to the conclusion that we're all very similar on a lot of things, So you're right is my point. Even with all the athletes I used to train, I mean, they're all headed down that path for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
and the biggest thing with that too is that, so we see that with the young men, because we see the trend of us coming together, flocking together, so to speak. It has to be where men have to be also leaders along, like winning and doing all that stuff and making money is great, but you have to lead your relationships. You have to lead the women in your lives too. Because if you don't do that, they'll become a part of the state essentially like they are now, because they're basically just a voting block for people like Kamala for abortion right now and whatnot. And again, it's mainly because the only leadership they've seen has been from the government, and that's it.
Yeah.
While a lot of the times men of the generations before us, they neglected their duties as fathers, as leaders in their community and whatnot. And so naturally, women aren't going to follow weak men. So they're going to go and look towards whatever the social trends are and whatnot and group together and flock together that way.
Yeah.
And again, as we know a lot of women who have really good fathers. Mitch and I are with two of those women and whatnot. And, they very much so are open to leadership and whatnot. So there are still women like that out there, of course. But percentage wise, that's where the men have to start being leaders, because if we're going to bring this back around to an actually traditional country as well, you have to step up in that leadership aspect in relationships too, which is probably the hardest aspect of it all. Because as we talk about, the family unit is the foundation of the country, which also means it's the hardest to perfect in a lot of ways, at least from what we've witnessed and whatnot, we understand. So yeah, on that note, it's like that's why we were saying as young men, it's just that we don't resonate with that.
Right.
You know, we've seen how politics and career politicians have affected our parents and us for the last however many years we've been alive and whatnot now. So we've seen that. So obviously we're going toward the guy who is not an establishment politician,
Right.
who has a group around him, or is now finally putting a group around him of good people who are not establishment either, who are outside the norm and who also have values very similar to ours.
Right. And just loves the country.
Exactly.
Very much so. Is, red, white, and blue. There's American flags everywhere. And not that Democrats don't have American flags at their stuff. It's not what I'm saying. But when you turn the colors of the lights on the White House, the rainbow colors, to celebrate, Trans Day or whatever it is, like, I'm not okay with that. That's not okay with me. I'm not saying those lights need to be red, white, and blue, but they certainly don't need to be that. You know what I mean?
They certainly don't need to be.
Like, it's demoralizing to see that because
it's a cultural decay is what it is.
Yeah, because whether it's a Republican or a Democrat in office, whether you agree with that person or their policies or not, at the end of the day, that still represents what our country is to the rest of the world. And that sucks. That pisses me off. And I'm not saying that's why you should vote for Trump, is so that they don't turn the colors red or rainbow colors on the White House. But that should upset you a little bit. Because it's just a mockery right in your face. And they do that type of stuff all the time.
Well, it's purposeful too.
Because I believe it was Cardi B that did a concert at one of the Kamala rallies.
It was her and then Meg Thee Stallion, I think, did one.
Yeah. And they're up there shaking their ass and basically naked on this stage at a presidential campaign rally. There should be an element of professionalism. And is Trump always professional? No, because he says stupid shit all the time. We've established this, okay? But to have that type of thing, like you choose to have
essentially
that,
having strippers on stage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Again, how is that going to sway me to vote for that? I don't want to see that stuff at a presidential rally. I think it would probably be just as weird if Trump brought out, I don't know, like Morgan Wallen even. It's like, it's not a concert. It's not a concert. It is a presidential campaign rally. Talk about what you are going to do for the country. And you can have your guest speakers and things like that, just like Trump did at the Madison Square Garden rally. Awesome, by the way, the amount of people in New York City that turned out for that. That's awesome. Okay. But at the same time, you have Rudy Giuliani up there talking about Israel and how we have to support Israel.
Yeah.
And you and I, we talked for a long time about that. And it's like, this is so stupid. You are so out of touch with the people of the Republican Party or the people that want to vote for that.
That's the people Trump needs to steer so far clear.
Yes.
Because that's not the only generation you're appealing to is the baby boomers and beyond.
Absolutely.
At that point in time.
100%. That's it.
That's it.
And those people, for the most part, are already set on which way they're going to vote.
Exactly.
So why?
Yeah, they are.
So stop appealing so much to them and start appealing to 50 and under, 40 and under even. Those are the people that you should be appealing to because those are the future generations.
Who also show up in less numbers right now to vote too.
Show up in way less numbers. Yeah. Oh yeah, we've talked about it a million times.
Which is why we talk about this stuff to get our generation out to vote.
When we go in to vote, we're the only people in the room that don't have white hair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, Mitch, you went and early voted. Was that true? Like, I'm very curious for the early voting,
Concerning?
Were you still, the youngest person in the room probably?
I was definitely the minority by far.
Yeah, exactly. And so...
And that was with a long wait too.
Yeah.
About an hour and 15.
Yeah.
Right. And, people can make the case, well, you said you went at like 12:30, right?
Yeah.
Middle of the day. Well, okay, most people are working. Okay, fine. You win the point. Yes, most people are working in the middle of the day. You are correct. But still, the point remains. There is so much rhetoric on both sides that strictly appeals to that. And that's also annoying because the Republicans do that a lot. They talk about that type of stuff all the time.
Oh yeah, they
And it's
love
like,
our greatest ally.
Yeah, right.
Bullshit.
Exactly. And it's just like, stop doing that. Like, please, for the love of God, stop doing that. Talk about what you're going to do in office in these next 4 years. Talk about why that will benefit me, not how it could, how it will benefit me, my future, and our future. Our being the generation or the country or even the world.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about those things. That's what I care about.
It should be that simple.
Exactly.
Because it shouldn't also be that you go in and vote just because you hate Trump.
Yeah.
Because you can hate him all you want, but who's making the country better?
Exactly.
Is the real question.
Exactly.
Who was better in their 4 years
before
all the COVID fiasco and all that bullshit?
Sure.
You know. So that is the actual questions you have to ask. You know, and you need to be rational when you go to the polls. You know, that's important. You need to go there and have an actually steady head on why you're voting for this person you're voting for.
Mm-hmm.
You need to go in there, and if the state Senate person is like, I don't know who this is, should you cast a vote?
Yeah.
Just because they're Republican or Democrat? I don't know.
Right.
That's your call.
Mm-hmm.
But you should definitely know who that is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you should know, okay, Ann Wagner's been in for 20 years. Am I really going to vote for her again?
Correct.
I don't know. What do I think about Amendment 2, which is on gambling?
Right.
What is it all about? Is it just gambling and money going to schools, or is it 30 other pages?
Exactly.
And there's other stuff buried in it.
Right.
I don't know.
For the casino one, where's all that money coming from?
Mm-hmm. How's it going to affect the lake?
Exactly.
And the
that's my
environment
point.
around
It's
there.
like,
yeah.
Because when you look into it, it's like, why is there so much Vegas money involved in this potential casino in Missouri?
Mm-hmm.
And Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri.
Yeah, do we really need more degeneracy down there anyways?
There's plenty of it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
You know, and also there's things like, okay, Kamala goes on Call Her Daddy.
And got what, 200,000 views or something like that?
I want to say I saw it capped at like 700,000. I think is what I saw, and that was in like a month, I want to say. And then Trump goes on Joe Rogan. Again, I don't care what your thoughts on are either person there, and it's so difficult for me when people say negative things about Joe Rogan and call him, you know,
anti-vaxxer
or like a male supremacist or whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah,
and you know he only caters to white males. That dude literally has every person from every walk of the earth.
He literally
on his
just had
show.
John Fetterman on.
Yeah,
the senator from Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Real solid choice there.
From what I
Pennsylvania.
Rogan was cooking him on illegal immigration, so I'll give that to him. Yeah, for sure.
Fetterman probably didn't even know where he was.
I don't think so. He could use an untapped programming plan.
For sure.
My goodness.
Yeah, there's plenty of government officials that could.
Yeah,
like Secret Service officials too.
Ooh, yeah.
Anyway, but Trump goes on Joe Rogan, and they get millions in 48 hours.
It was 31 million.
Exactly.
Before YouTube like banned it, essentially. Not banned it, like they shadow banned it.
That's 10% of the country right there in 48 hours. And then I haven't seen the numbers for Vance, you know, now that he was on there as well.
From what I understand, his was up there as well. Obviously not the same as Trump.
Sure.
But I'm pretty sure for the numbers were like from Spotify in the tens of millions, and then YouTube on the powerful JRE YouTube page or whatever was within a day 31 million. So it probably was in 48 hours more than 31 million.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It is insane. And it also should tell you that the ways of the media, the mainstream media, the old media, the ways of that are done.
Yeah, the Fox News is the CNNs, MSNBCs, ABC, CBS, they're out.
They're done.
They're gone.
People are done with them, as you should be.
Mm-hmm.
All the stations you just mentioned, okay? Because Joe Rogan just sits down and has legitimate conversations with people, whether he agrees with it or disagrees with it.
Mm-hmm.
He's had Trump on. He's had CNN doctors on. He's had everything in between.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, was it Sanjay Gupta was the CNN doctor?
Yeah.
Great conversation about health and vaccines on that one. Very interesting conversation.
You know, he's had David Goggins on.
Mm-hmm. He has comedians on. He has MMA fighters on.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter who it is. He's having them on. Yeah.
It's interesting people to have interesting conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have that amount of people paying attention to that conversation in that little of time, it should tell you something. It should tell you something. I don't know that Andy's getting 31 million views in 48 hours, but he because
he claims he has millions.
It was a couple years
incredible.
ago. They went through the numbers on a Real AF episode, and it was like average listeners is what they were doing, and Joe Rogan had by far the most of any type of media, and I don't remember the exact number, so it doesn't matter. But Joe Rogan easily had the most, and then this was right around when Tucker left Fox and started his own. And then it was Tucker, I believe, under Joe Rogan. Mm-hmm. And then I want to say it was either Andy or Fox News. And those two might have been flipped.
I think it was, yeah.
And then it was way down here for you Moneyball fans. There was 50 feet of crap. And then there was CNN. For you Moneyball fans, you'll get that quote.
Yeah, I'm lost.
That's a fantastic quote I just dropped right there, okay? Or a reference, I should say. But even that, and that was a couple years ago that they did those numbers. That even tells you that people are not paying attention to the mainstream media anymore. And truthfully, I haven't listened to the episode yet with Trump, and I really do need to, and I want to.
I'm about 2 hours in, and it's very interesting because it's just him in a very chill setting.
Yeah.
And he's a goofball. There's no doubt about it. Like
they both are.
He's 78 years. Oh yeah. 100%. Joe started going down a rabbit hole about MMA fighters with him and whatnot.
Yeah.
It was so fun. Trump was loving it. I'm like, what in the world is happening right now? I'm surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if I got like 30 more minutes in, then they start talking about bears.
Yeah.
Like Joe always does.
Snow.
Yeah. Like grizzly bears and how dominant of predators they are. It's like, thanks, Joe. Really needed that with you and Trump. Oh man. But again, like you said, I think the numbers were literally, if I remember correctly, my memory was like 8 to 10 million for Rogan average episode.
Yeah.
It was like 3 million or something like that for the next at Fox News and Andy.
Let's pause right there. Mitch, can you look up average listeners for like Joe Rogan, see if you can find Andy, and then find like the mainstream media stations if you can, please. Thank you.
Yeah. But it's very interesting because you're right. Like you have to start looking that media sources are changing big time.
Yeah.
I mean, the media landscape is shifting because now you see the 40s and 50 years old getting a little bit older and they're still involved in social media. Mm-hmm. And, then our generation's getting more involved in political events and stuff going on and social issues and whatnot. So it's a really good thing. I think the shift away is, and including Fox News, because, people like Hannity are absolute idiots on that show.
Huge warmonger.
Oh my gosh. They love being
massive.
at war, big time.
Yeah.
Which obviously, I don't know if any of their family members they obviously have never been to war. None of them.
Correct.
Otherwise they wouldn't encourage that. But it's good to see that. It's good to see that shift, and hopefully that shift continues into this election and whatnot. And again, that's why we're encouraging people to go out and vote. I mean, you 100% should be. It's not about sitting back and being meek about what you believe at this point in time.
Right.
It isn't.
Right.
It isn't.
What'd you find for us, big dog?
Joe Rogan, 11 million unique listeners on average per episode.
Oh my gosh.
It's insane.
Fox News primetime audience 1.72 million.
Okay. That's what I was.
That's a huge gap.
Yeah.
I want to say on that episode on the Real AF, I want to say Andy said they get like 4 million.
He said 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I know that it was in that ballpark for sure. Yeah.
Which is also insane.
Yep. Because their YouTubes only get anywhere between like 50K to up to 250K, depending on if it's a Q&A. CTIs, he's right. If you go on those are like shadow banned as hell, and they get like 50K. Yeah, so he gets that on YouTube, but then on Spotify, they let it go wild. And I think he has millions of listeners on there.
Right.
Which is very fascinating.
Yes. Well, and I mean,
it's a guy from St. Louis.
We're obviously on a microscopic level compared to those, but we've even had episodes on YouTube be taken down. Mm-hmm. We haven't had anything on Spotify be taken down.
Yep.
It's the same episode. Mm-hmm. Same stuff was said.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Said some unhinged stuff.
Absolutely. But it was a COVID episode that we had taken down.
Uh-huh.
And we're nowhere near those numbers right now. And we get shadow banned.
Yep.
And get strikes on our account.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that should tell you all you need to know.
Yeah, you have to look at what is being shown to you information wise, and then you have to go below the surface. Mm-hmm. And again, it really doesn't. at first, when you and I started going kind of below the surface or down the rabbit hole, so to speak, with stuff, whether it's World War II or whether it's sexual evolution, et cetera, all the different historical events and whatnot.
9/11, COVID.
9/11, COVID, yeah.
Election.
100%. Even when we first started doing that, we thought it took a ton of time to do all that stuff. It doesn't. I mean, you look at the right sources, you look not on Google and you go on DuckDuckGo or, go on X or whatnot, and you kind of go down some rabbit holes there and you like verify sources, you can find some stuff real quick there.
Right.
And you can start asking a lot of questions real quick on there.
And you have to be open-minded too, because a lot of it is going to seem crazy. And sometimes stuff on Twitter, X, whatever, like there's obviously some ridiculous stuff. We just saw some right before we started this podcast. Yeah. Stuff that we don't need to see.
Yep.
And even like
or the stuff that doesn't make sense, like that Matt Wallace guy a lot of the times.
Yeah. He's just the most clickbaity person.
Oh my
ever.
gosh, yeah.
Did you see what happened with her face when she yawned? It was a video of Kamala like yawning.
And she was just yawning.
And I'm like, I sent it to you. I go, I did not see a single thing. So even that, a guy that, is more right-leaning and stuff like that, it's like, what are you even doing? Like, you're reaching here,
Big time.
But anyway, all of this being said, go vote, participate in the election, pay attention to the results or lack thereof. You never know. Okay. And truly understand the people you're voting for, federally, state, local. Understand the propositions, the amendments, things like that. Understand what is actually being voted on. Is it just gambling, yes or no? Or is there other stuff going on? You mentioned the weed one a couple years back from Missouri. Is it just legalizing weed? Yes or no? Is it? Is it just banning abortion, or is it for abortion or whatever? Or what else is in there? Is it just to build a casino at the Lake of the Ozarks, the party lake here in Missouri? Or is there other stuff going on? Who's backing that? Things like that. Obviously, your guys' own state, you're going to have your own things like that. So just make sure you know what you're voting for. Again, find the right sources. It can be a little difficult to find the right sources. Absolutely, it definitely can be. But that's where you have to put the time in.
Yep.
You
have to counterbalance them with other sources.
Right.
Yeah.
For us, there's a ton of judges that we're voting on. Nobody knows anything about the judges. My dad sat down one night. It took him 3 hours. I'm not even kidding. It took him 3 hours to go through our ballot. And most of that time was from the judges because you couldn't find anything. So he got down to it on these judges, like, what church do they go to? What does their church talk about? What does their church support?
Oh, yeah.
What have their rulings been on certain things? Because obviously judges, they're not supposed to have any political influence, right or left. They're supposed to just interpret the law. We all know that's not true.
We all know, human nature comes into play.
Right.
And biases come into play, yeah.
Exactly. So even those judges, like, you got to look into those. It might take some time, So, I don't know. That's my final thought there.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to close it out. Yeah. Go and vote.
Yep.
Obviously, this is supposed to be a guest episode, like we mentioned, and whatnot. Sure. We will reschedule that one 100%. We
actually have some other very exciting ones.
In
addition to this one,
absolutely, we do. Yeah,
we just dropped a hint with a big one, or we not even dropped a hint, but we just made a very subtle connection with a possible big one, which would be 100% unbelievable.
100%. Yeah. So really excited for the future coming up here and whatnot.
Absolutely.
We're gonna keep speaking out no matter who wins and whatnot. We're not going to sacrifice our values for that and whatnot.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't sacrifice your values by not going to vote.
For sure.
So just get out there and do it, guys.
Mitch, you got any final thoughts for us? Nothing? I guess you already voted. So
that's a good point. Yeah.
All right, guys. Share the show. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because I don't feel like it. Get over it. Okay? Share the damn show. Help us out. All right?
I probably actually appreciate that.
Yeah. And go vote. Until next time, peace and love.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Got too little time.